Hey there, this is Craig, your professor again, and I'm going to embed a course video here to talk about how we're going to approach technology challenges in this 21st century. So the way the course is designed is there are 4 modules, each with at least 3 readings, which are going to take you somewhere between an hour and a half to read. There are 2 to 3 discussion boards in each module. There will also be um, at least 2 lectures in each module, one for each week. And what I mean by that is each module, there are 4 modules, we're going to sort of try to cover over 2 weeks because there's a lot going on here in this course. So there's only 4 modules, but they dive pretty deep into several components. So one of the things that I want to be very, very clear about is what you're going to be taught in this course. So when you're talking about graduate level work as a technology leader, what we have to do is take a look at technology as a whole. And we would be remiss without at least taking a look at enterprise technology. Now, what do I mean by enterprise technology? Most people tend to think of technology as I have this computer, I have this phone, I have this tablet, and that for most people, including most employees and team members, they view that as technology. But as a leader, you have to look at the organization as a whole. And so we're going to look at the foundations of what we would call enterprise technology. So that includes data center looks, networking, Wi-Fi, on-premise versus in the cloud, and what all these different components are. So as a technology leader, not a technician, I want to draw a clear line of demarcation that your technology knowledge is going to be about a mile wide and about an inch deep. You have to have a working understanding of enterprise technology and all of its components, because none of these things are going to make sense unless you have the big picture. And so our first module is all about enterprise technology. Our readings are what does it mean to a leader to manage in enterprise technology? What sort of philosophies, strategies, and processes do we bring to enterprise technology? And in the lecture, I'll talk about what is it all for. And that includes when you go to work and plug in your computer, or maybe it's plugged in already, or if you're working from home and VDI, what is known as VDI or Citrix, or software as a service, or infrastructure as a service. There's all sorts of different components, and we're going to cover all those in Module 1. And then we're going to dovetail into the most significant issue of the modern era, and that is cybersecurity. So as a technology leader, you have to understand the basic components of cybersecurity. Now, as I said, I was a CIO, the top technology person in organizations for 16 years, including my years as the vice president for systems administration at PSI. And so when we look at cybersecurity, it changes constantly. It's in a constant state of flux. And what we're going to do is deliver in this course a sense of what are the basic components of cybersecurity and what do you need to know as a leader, and what are the 2 main frameworks around cybersecurity. And then what we're going to do is we're going to dovetail in no modern course on technology, leadership, and challenges would be complete without a course or a module in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. So we're going to talk a lot about artificial intelligence and what does it mean in the workplace and how is it transforming the workplace and what does it mean to you as a leader. Now, I want to just add in a simple note here about the use of artificial intelligence, which most of you have already sort of probably dove into with the use of maybe free tools like ChatGPT. We're going to cover all different types of artificial intelligence. But here's what I want to say about your coursework. I am not opposed to you using ChatGPT to clean up your coursework or to add some nuance. here's the caveat. One of the things that we say in cybersecurity all the time, and you're going to see this in one of the slides, where we have to analyze billions of events that are happening on any day or week. And we could not do that with just the human component, right? We have to use artificial intelligence to help us slog through all that, to get through the noise, as we say, and get right down to the brass tacks of what's happening. Now, having said that, one of the things that we say, it's sort of a mantra on my operations team, is you got to be able to do your own work. In other words, you have to know what it is that these things mean, because artificial intelligence cannot help you if you don't know the topic yourself. And so one of the things that I comment to people all the time is, if you let artificial intelligence do your writing for you, do your homework for you, do your lessons for you, here's what's going to end up happening. You're not going to learn anything. Reading is the number one skill that any learner needs to have, certainly at the graduate level. You have to be able to learn. Now, learning and summarizing, sure, that's a different thing. But where artificial intelligence in the current era certainly shines is you do the work and you have it sort of clean it up, make sure it's professional, that you don't lose your voice. I'm going to tell you all something that you probably know. You use artificial intelligence, and if that's the only thing you did and you didn't do your own work, it's pretty obvious. And I don't have a clear method for marking off for that, but we may have some discussions about it as we walk through the course. So again, I want to reiterate, I'm not opposed to you doing your own work and letting chat, for example, clean up verbiage and make sure that the tone is appropriate and that it meets the requirements. If you have chat do the work for you, you're not going to learn anything. And the only way I know how to sort of circumvent that as an instructor is our midterm and our final are going to include some fill in the blank sorts of things and discussions. And hopefully we'll be able to weed out for those of you who decide that you're not going to do the work. And I think in the discussion boards, that's where it's really going to matter. I'm going to look at those, the discussion boards, more than anything, and to help me understand if you understand the topic. And I may send you a message and we may have some discussions about it. Okay, the final module is actually the human toll of technology in the workplace. That is one of the things that most people don't think about. We were just talking about chat and artificial intelligence as a means by which we can expand our work. But what you're going to learn in the first module is about technology and technology obsolescence and the pace of change. All these things have a human toll. When you walk into a workplace, you are going to be expected to know how to do the job and to be able to be trainable to learn your job better. Certainly as a leader, you have to understand that the implementation and the implications of technology create all kinds of burnout in the workplace. That creates stress in the workplace. It creates a sense of, and we're going to look at this in that final module, what we call the always on. And certainly in cybersecurity, we have several folks, myself included, who are a little twisted, and we're always on. I keep my Teams chat up 24/7, and when I'm down here at my computer, if we get alerts that need addressing, I'm right here, and whoever our on-call person is there, and we start digging in and trying to figure it out. Well, that takes a toll on people, and people have to be able to get to their downside. Okay, so that's the course. We're basically going to talk about the foundations of technology, enterprise technology, not computers, and then we're going to talk about how cybersecurity impacts enterprise technology. Then we're going to talk about the advent and the massive changes related to artificial intelligence in the workplace. And then we're going to wrap it up with this discussion about the human toll of implementing technology. Now, all these discussions, I want you to bring your Christianity to the discussion. Now, there's one discussion board in the last module that talks a lot about, well, it doesn't talk a lot about, the instructions are to, from a Christian perspective, talk about the human toll of technology. This is going to be one of the most important discussion boards in this course, because we cannot lead in technology unless we understand that what we're leading is not machines. We're leading people, and people have needs, and we need to understand what those needs are. Now, this isn't an HR course, and it's not an organizational development course, but what it is an organizational development course related to technology. And so I want you to be aware of that. Now, the last two things I want to bring up, there are three things actually. You are going to do a research paper in this course, and in the first module I'm going to ask you for a topic. What that means is you're going to have to peruse at least some of the content of all the modules to come up with an idea for your research paper as it relates to challenges with technology in the modern era. The second module, I'm going to ask you for an outline. The third module, I'm going to ask you for some draft. It doesn't have to be a complete draft, but probably 3 to 5 pages that show that you're actually engaged in this work. Okay, why do we do that? I'm not the only instructor that does this. I'm sure other people at Samford have done the same thing. But at the end of the day, I know how time gets away. And for those of you who are professionals and working, if we don't cut this down into small bits, we're never going to get it done. The final sort of capstone project for this course is that research paper, which will be due in the final module. There's also a midterm, and it counts for a good chunk of your grade. It is not extensive or expansive, but it does include fill in the blank and some discussion. So what that's going to mean is you are going to have to understand the material. It's going to cover Module 1 and Module 2. Then there will be a final, and it will take on the same basic format, and it will cover Modules 3 and 4, and it'll be about 20 questions. There will be some fill in the blank. Most of you have heard this already, but multiple choice does not solve problems in terms of the learning process, right? That's why people sort of affectionately or otherwise call it multiple guess. So they're all multiple choice questions because I'm not a monster and I want you to be able to succeed in this course. So those are the basic course components: enterprise technology, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, the human impact, a midterm and a final, and then the research paper, which will come in 4 components. That is, in essence, the overview for the course. This video is about 13 minutes long. Please take the time to go back over it if you're not clear on what I'm asking you to do. All right. Thank you very much.